Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James. Wow, that's kind of loud there. My name is James Jimmy Hills. I'm the host of Java with Jimmy, and we are here this evening to talk with some parents and advocates in reference to what's going on in Brockton High School. If you are not aware, there have been a lot of reports and not reports, but proven actual incidents of violence. There are a lot of opinions about what is to be done or what should be done about the violence going on in the school. And I'm going to reframe that, not just violence going on at the school, but an obvious demonstration that there needs to be support. And obviously, our young people need to be educated in a space where they feel safe, not only them, but the teachers and the staff as well. And so it is a hard balance. One of the things that brought this to my attention was recently there was a call for the National Guard to be placed within Brockton High School. And there was a lot of opinion about that. And I'll reserve my opinion for toward the end. It may portray itself through the conversation this evening, but we want to bring in some folks. We do not have young people here. We were not able to identify, preferably someone over 18. They would have had to send me their ID that they were 18. And so, or, finding a parent and child together. And so we were not able to do that. I want to thank Newt Johnson, my forever manager, and also Jed Hetzro, and I almost got it right, but if I didn't, Rasan's going to help me with it in a couple of seconds. But we have Mary, we're going to say, well, they have their last names up, so you'll see them, but Mary L, Rasan H, and also Eva Lee C, who are going to come in and speak with us about their observations, their opinions, and also suggestions. So without further ado, Java family, please welcome to the Java Cafe those that will speak with us this evening about what's going on in Brockton. And so I'm going to go by the order of my screen. Eva Lise, if you could introduce yourself first, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you to describe what's going on in Brockton in one word. Little bit of icebreaker.
I could put it in one word. Okay, let me see.
Well, we'll talk more, but not one word this round.
Ivelis Caraballo. I am the founding member of a parent-led education advocacy organization called C-Plan. And I'm also a Brockton resident. My daughter graduated from BHS a couple years ago. And my son actually worked in the district for a few years as well. As a mentor and a para. I'm currently still an education advocate, a very strong one in Brockton, where I have led a series of workshops alongside the family engagement specialist in the EDI office. I've led a series of workshops really helping families how to navigate the education system, really understand what equity, diversity, and inclusion is in schools specifically, and really helping them understand like the concepts that and the terminology that's often used in the education space that might intimidate them quite often to become engaged. What's happening in Brockton in one word?
In one word.
Wild.
Wild. Okay, we'll get the context in just a couple of seconds. Thank you so much. Mary, if you could introduce yourself as well.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy. My name is Mary Lasavita. I'm a Brockton resident of 20 years, moved here actually for the schools. And I have a son who is now a junior at Brockton High School. I'm also an attorney, and I primarily a litigation attorney, although since 2020, I've taken on 4 wrongful prosecutions, 2 that were ordered by the mayor of Brockton against social activists and mentors who worked in the school system. And lastly, I am one of the people, Evelise and I have a mutual friend who helped me start the school council at Brockton High. By law, they're supposed to have one. They hadn't had one in a good 10 years. So we forced the system to start that school council, and I am now the secretary of it.
Okay. All right. And one word to describe, by your observation, what's going on there in Brockton.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. Okay. Rasan, thank you so much for being with us. No stranger to the Java Cafe at all. Thank you for being with us this evening. And sir, introduce, for those that don't know, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and a little bit about your relationship to the school. And you also describe what's going on with, and I just know you're going to have me fall out. Describe it one word. What's going on in Brockton?
Well, thank you, Jimmy, for having me on yet again. I always welcome the invitation to be at the Java Cafe. And now that I understand it as or I've always understood it, but hearing it as the Java Cafe makes me realize that I forgot to get some coffee. So at some point I might sneak away to grab some. But Rasan Hall, I am the president and CEO of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. I'm also a proud Brockton resident. My connection to the school beyond being a resident is that I have neighbors and friends who live in Brockton who have children in the school, but I'm just a concerned resident about our schools, what's happening in our schools, and the impact that what's going on will have on our children in the community, but also the overall community. And so I recently was a part of a group of individuals who organized a standout in support of the students, the faculty and staff outside of the school in response to the call for the National Guard. And so if I could describe what's going on in Brockton in one word, I would say opportunity.
Opportunity. Okay, I like that. So we have wild heartbreak. We have a wild, heartbreaking opportunity. And I think that is a true description of sort of there are folks that are in support that aren't, supportive of the National Guard, but that is sort of what I would call the head of the situation. I'm sure there's some underlining, issues there prior to getting to this point. And so, Mary, we're going to start in this segment with you. I think it's apropos, seeing that you are an active parent at present. Evelise does have one child that graduated and one that worked in the system. And so from your perspective, when you said heartbreaking, Mary, why did you say heartbreaking? What's the context?
I said heartbreaking because a lot of the conversation that adults are having about these issues,
yes, ma'am,
is missing the voice of the children. Yep. It doesn't seem to be concerned for the children. So there are things happening to these children, including my own, that a lot of the adults seem to completely be missing the mark on. And, one example I could give you is there has been for the last couple of years and now a call from the mayor and others to just bring in more police. That will solve it. I'm not a fan of the school to prison pipeline, which is alive and well at Brockton High School. And that to me is a completely deaf response to what is a very complex problem that took many years to create.
Thank you. And that was sort of the context of what I was saying, that, the calling of the National Guard is sort of the tip of the iceberg. And so, Evelise, Rasan, we're going to end this segment with you. Evelise, from your perspective, you're involved. Your daughter's graduated, but you said that you were still very much active. And so you said wild. What is the context for you saying that what's going on at Brockton High is wild?
The reason why I say that it's wild is because while there are a ton of great community leaders, community-based organizations, and folks that are really passionate about this work, there are a few, it's like a minority of the people in Brockton that are like against family and community engagement, that are stopping certain things from happening. In addition to the fact that some of those adults can't even model the behaviors that they expect of the students, right? So you look at some of the school committee meetings and they can't even have respect for each other, let alone get through a conversation with like a solution or something that's viable or even ideal for the students. And so for me, it's a little bit wild, because it's like, how is it that we have a larger percentage of people that are actively engaged and ready to pull up their sleeves and get to work? I mean, so many people have offered to be bodies in the schools. So many people have offered to partner. So many people have offered to help in various ways, but for some reason, it just doesn't happen that way. Why is it that such a small percentage of people have so much power to stop what the folks are trying to do?
We'll come back to that because I'm curious as to the point why you feel that there's resistance to having the community come in and be sort of, and you said you use the term bodies, to be in place to help protect these young people. And so, Rasan, I'm going to ask you to end out this segment, and then I'm going to pose a question to you because of, and we'll name that Mary name, she's a lawyer as well. We know Rasan is, but Rasan, you said opportunity, and I can presume where you see opportunities there, but please tell us why you said opportunity. And then I have a question, or ask you to clarify some things when it comes to the law and what recently happened in Massachusetts in reference to school police and being in schools. And so, Rasan, opportunity, why so?
Sure. I think it's important to understand that despite the narrative that exists about Brockton, the city of Brockton and its schools, it's an amazing community. It's rich with culture, community spirit, wonderful diversity of ethnicities. And unfortunately, we've come under public scrutiny because of the disruption in our school, which is tied to, in part, the mismanagement at best, misappropriation at worst of our school budget, and overspending where we have a significant budget deficit. And that has led to the layoff of a lot of teachers, and with the children sometimes sitting in the cafeteria because a teacher has either called in or there isn't enough staff support. We've seen this disruption, not unlike what happens in other schools, but there is much more of it happening. And because it's the largest school in New England and one of the second largest on the East Coast, it gets amplified. The reason I said opportunity is, despite the political stunt pulled by some of these school committee members to get attention, it's an opportunity for the community to lean in a little bit more. And I want to be cautious when I say that, because I don't want to be perceived as being dismissive of all of the people and organizations that have been doing the work to be engaged with our students and support the school and the students in the school and the faculty and staff. That's happening, but there has been disconnect. Some things have not been allowed, but there are a lot of people who haven't been engaged, and this is a wonderful opportunity to get them engaged. It's also an opportunity to shine a light on how the failures of management and accountability as it relates to the budget, the school budget, needs to have greater attention on it. And so now that people are paying attention, we can start to leverage some of the existing resources and services.
Rasan, thank you so much. If you noticed, I allowed a little bit more time there for your answer based on the context that you were talking about opportunity. And that while it's definitely wild, we got to bring attention to that and the heartbreak of it. I was going to make up a word there, the heartbreak of it. I want to tap into that opportunity. I guess a way to frame what I wanted to ask you in this segment was, and not even a segment, but both Mary, you and Evilise can probably speak to the fact that this Boston, last couple of years, parents have reached out. I've done a show about, here in Boston. It's so interesting to hear some of the similarities, Mary, that you reference between Boston and Brockton. But we know that there was a state law passed, I believe, Rasan, correct me, in the 2021 session of the legislature, where police were by state law no longer allowed in schools. Do I have that right?
No.
Okay.
What the law required is, because before that it was mandated that schools be in each school district, that school police rather be in, or school resource officers as they're called, be in each district. But in the 2020 criminal law or police reform bill that was passed, it required municipalities to request them as opposed to it being mandated. And so it
Okay.
was optional. Brockton has never stopped having police in schools.
So thank you for the clarity. And I saw kind of your, like, when you said no hesitation, no, we want to make sure we have all the right information out. And that's why I asked you to sort of clarify. And so one would presume that a contributing factor to what's actively going on in Brockton could be from the fact that my wrong presumption was that police could no longer be in Brockton. And so thank you for that clarity. Eva Lise, we're going to start here with you. When you talk about wild and you talk about, and Mary, I'm going to maybe go a little bit deeper to this. You said that there wasn't this embracing of community and organizations coming in. And we know that even from a policing standpoint, community partnerships is essential to the success of any neighborhood, any school, any policing, youth violence and stuff like that. And so from your perspective, or just tell us, like, what's going on with the community not being embraced?
Well, in my mind, there are people in charge in Brockton, and the mayor is one of them. Who,
I'm sorry. Mary, did I say and I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, wait a minute, I hear another voice. If I said Mary, my mistake. Eva Lise for this part, and Mary, I want you to piggyback.
Okay.
I want you to piggyback because you referenced to the fact that the mayor had filed some cases. So I wonder if there's some correlation there. Eva Lise, I'm sorry about that, you all.
Okay.
So you want me to go?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I forgot to mention that I've been chairing the Parent Advisory Council for the district for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And when the former superintendent was there, he was super receptive to community and family engagement. And so what we would do in our nature of our work is that the families would come with agenda items and we would discuss them collaboratively. And he would let us know, yes, we can do this. And this is how we will go about doing this. No, we can't do this because of XYZ, or here's a compromise that we might have to make for whatever reason. That's the spirit in which we used to work with the superintendent in. But with the new acting superintendent, his apathy is on a whole nother level. You can tell his whole demeanor and his presence is like, he just wants to be he doesn't want to be bothered. And I quote, he doesn't see the value in meeting with the Parent Advisory Council. And so every time that we would bring agenda items to the table, he would get defensive and very combative. And in one of the meetings, he just hung up on us. And so it's not the same collaborative spirit. It's not as receptive because for him is more like a checking off items. If we say, for example, the immigrant population really needs like some kind of orientation to learn how to navigate the US education system. He's like, well, we have XYZ in place. And we're like, okay, but while we appreciate the intentions, that's not how it's being received by the families because of there are certain disconnections. And he's like, nope, that's what we have in place. And that's what's going on. And so it's like, it's just to be able to check off boxes as opposed to like really being intentional about, is this really getting to the families in the way that we anticipated or intended when we designed the policies? And so that's just one example of many as to why it's not being received and embraced. Like here we are saying, we're willing to work with you. We're not just parents who show up and complain. We're parents who show up, identify what the issues are, identify some possible solutions with our sleeves rolled up, ready to get to work. And we have helped in many ways in the district. I don't think you have enough time for us to list all of them now, but just wanted to share out what it used to be versus what it is now.
Okay.
And so I just want to make one last point. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go, you're good.
Yeah, that yes, it's real important for family and community engagement. I think it's more important for what happens once families do engage. Because speaking of the experiences that I just mentioned, when parents feel like they're prioritizing a meeting for school, and they're spoken at instead of spoken with, and they're chastised, or they're just treated like, hey, I don't even want to be bothered, I don't want to be in this space. What's the incentive of encouraging them to come back, right? Yet parents have families and other competing priorities. So I think that it's not the lack of people not wanting to engage, but the fact that they're not being valued once they are engaged, and their time is not being utilized in the best way possible.
Evilise, thank you. They're like you said, we don't have the time to go, and I would love to give the time to go into the asset that the parents and community have been to Brockton, and we don't have the time to do a deeper dive into a lot of what you said. However, we're going to do a little bit of it. Mary, can you, presumably, what you said about either, if I understand right, the mayor filed cases in reference to what Evilise was saying around some families trying to work with the school. I don't want to be off here, but can you correlate what Evilise? Go ahead.
Yes. So he didn't file them. So he essentially, well, I think it was partially related to that. It was the mayor had a meeting in the summer of 2021 with the police chief, and a number of community activists. And one of the community activists, who is a mentor in the school system, was very vocal in telling the mayor, look, you're not offering us real solutions here. And it's a very long story and a very long case, but very shortly thereafter, and this was the second day the kids were back in school live from the pandemic, this particular mentor got slapped with an assault case of a child. They did the same thing to his brother, who was also a mentor in the school. And I think everybody knows the case. It's John Williams. Probably people don't know as well his brother, Anthony Sampson. This also happened to him. And it was the classic, we went in for the arraignment. The judge literally laughed at me and said, where's this evidence you say you have? The evidence was suppressed until after the arraignment. And then when you watch the videotape, it was very clear that the child assaulted him and not otherwise. But this was a case that there were a lot of city officials, the DA, for what was a small assault and battery case. The DA was in the courthouse a lot and watching it. And they wanted to take it all the way to the end and hope that I didn't have the skill to, let the truth shine. And they, meanwhile, if you're a mentor working in the schools, in and out of the schools with these children, and, by all accounts, John Williams has done amazing work with children in this community for, at least a good 10, 12 years. He instantly had to be pulled out of the schools because you can't have that charge pending and be in the schools. So they took away his livelihood. And because he tried to stand up to the mayor, they tried to destroy his life. They were not kidding around about it. It wasn't so much because of his work in the schools, but one of the things that came out in the course of the case was that the mayor one of the police officers had sent an email to the mayor saying, we don't need these convicted felons in our schools around our children.
This is, for clarity, this is in reference to either one or both brothers that were mentioned.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that particular comment was in the police officer who has done all sorts of horrible things and has been on the front page about assaults and breaking and entering and things. The mayor has no problem with that. But, the police officer wrote to the mayor and said, I don't want these felons in there. He was speaking about John Williams, who has some minor charges on his record, and they have nothing to do with the amazing work he has done with the children in our community. I mean, children respect him. They react to him. He's got some different methods of working with the kids, but he's not working with my child who, sits up straight and, doesn't cross any lines. He's working with a lot of kids who are emotionally troubled, and does some incredible work. So the very fact that they look at this work and these workers with that kind of lens is frankly, it's racist and it's disturbing.
So Mary, you set me up. Thank you so much, because you set me to ask a little bit about some demographics here.
Yeah.
Just to properly paint a picture. So let's go. So John and
Anthony's his brother.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Demographic. What is it?
African American.
Most of the folks that you reference to, some political, all those political folks that, because he's presumably, it sounds like he stood up in a meeting and now has become a target. Now, I will say, and Rasan, you will appreciate this. As a disclaimer, we have not reached out to Brockton Public Schools. We have not reached out to anybody that is being named here. These are the opinions of those that are here with me this evening. So, Rasan, I'm getting better, man. And so, Mary, in all seriousness, to your point, what's the demographic of most of the folks that were coming after the brothers?
Oh, they're all white. And you know what? That I started to say when, I wasn't supposed to talk earlier, that a lot of what's going on here and is that there are a bunch of Brockton used to be a predominantly white town like 40 years ago. And there are some people who have grown up and who are, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who want the school to fail and literally want the majority of the town to just leave without realizing that they don't own this town.
Mary, the Browning of Brockton. Let's just say that is because
they don't like
it is known. Brockton has one of the largest Cape Verdean populations in if not the state, in the country. And so, wow. So thank you. There's some foundational things you're laying here. Rasan, I'm going to come to you in this point and ask, Mary called it out. And I'm sure you all, for folks that don't know, in his other role besides being an advocate, Rasan is also the CEO of the Boston Eastern Massachusetts, the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. And I'm sure you all just issued a report. Somewhere in there is this isn't just Brockton. There's an undercurrent around this type of stuff, and we can't go too deep. But Rasan, can you correlate maybe any findings from the report you guys are getting ready to find, you guys just issued, versus what's going on here? What Mary cited, the unbelievable piece that Evilise talked about, that community is not being embraced in helping the community. Rasan.
The National Urban League issues the State of Black America every year, and it looks at a series of issues around economic development, housing, the criminal legal system, and things have gotten better, but are far from where they need to be. And when we think about the criminal legal system and education, to Mary's point, the school to prison pipeline, when there is robust discipline and zero tolerance policies in place, that's what leads to more and more Black and brown students being disciplined, suspended, expelled, and ultimately found in the criminal legal system. And there is data and research that shows the correlation between those things. And so it's unfortunate that we're at this place where people are now calling for the repeal of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 222, which was the law that was put in place to get rid of zero tolerance policies. There is a specific reason that law was enacted, because of the overwhelming racial disparities in school discipline. Back when I was at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, we issued a report that showed that student discipline pursuant to these zero tolerance policies, that white students were disciplined at a rate of 1 in 27, Latinx students were disciplined at a rate of 1 in 12, whereas Black students were disciplined at a rate of 1 in 8. And so you have people now saying, well, get rid of that law that has an impact on preventing some of those racial disparities. People are saying, well, the school officials' hands are tied and they can't do anything with the students who are being disruptive. And that's not necessarily or entirely true. It calls for progressive discipline, but it also creates, again, an opportunity to look at other approaches to discipline, like restorative justice approaches, or what was brought up at the top of the program is people being mentors or people being volunteers to get some extra eyes and ears in the hallways to be support. I've had conversations with the high school Principal McCaskill, who's very open and receptive to mentoring programs. There's several mentoring programs that already exist. I mean, how can we not talk about Brother Sean Brown from Becoming a Man?
Yep.
Bam. You know what I'm saying? And he's ready, willing, and able. You know, there's folks in Brockton who run programs that are ready, willing, and able to come into the school and provide that type of support and mentorship. And it has to be, and I said this to Principal McCaskill, it has to be a mosaic approach, right?
Yeah.
Because some of the people that John Williams and his people are going to connect with aren't necessarily the same people that Sean and his people are going to connect with.
Yep.
And let's talk about the sisters and the need for some young women to have some positive female role models present in that school that look like them. The school is 80%.
86 from last report I saw. Yeah.
Right, but the faculty of the school is 80% white. Not to say that white teachers cannot teach children of color, but there is something around the expectations that people have and the cultural proficiency that people bring to the school. So these are all significant issues that are being discussed, but are also in play and create an opportunity for us to really do something. Because as someone pointed out, I think it was Leona Martin in the chat, Brockton was in the top 10% of schools in the nation, and this, again, one of the largest schools in the Eastern Seaboard.
It is so interesting. And again, Rasan, so much to there unpack with you, and you alluded to, and it's in the comments as well. I remember some months ago, there were a few articles that came out about misappropriation of funds and a lot of things that were going on. I don't want to misquote, but somewhere between the mayor's office and the school committee there. And so I can't believe it's 7:35 already. Eva Lise, I want to ask you, and then Mary, I want you to speak from your son's perspective. Eva Lise and Rasan, you can wrap up toward after Mary. But one clarifying question, Rasan, the numbers that you just mentioned, were those pre-pandemic or during or post-pandemic?
I believe those are the most recent numbers.
Okay.
And I think that's attributable apart because of the budget deficit, because, last hired, first fired. So you have a significant number of faculty and staff of color who were brought on. But
with this rush of DEI and stuff. Yes, sir. And 65% of a lot of that funding nationally is gone. So, all right. Eva Lise, from your perspective as a parent, how much of this is pandemic related? Our children, we are getting into this. I've been using the word as the pandemic dissipates and post-pandemic, but as a parent in the space that you move, from your perspective, have we seen the real full impact? Some people have surmised that what we're seeing in Brockton is some of the demonstration of, the impact of the pandemic. From your observation as a parent and an advocate, where does the pandemic play into this?
Well, there's been a lot of trauma that was experienced during the pandemic. There are a lot of families. We do have a diverse community. There are a lot of families that just didn't have the privileges that other folks have had. So just to give one example of many, we have a large undocumented population, and they didn't get the stimulus checks and the other support services that other families had access to. So that's one thing. In addition to the fact that a lot of folks really did lose family members, lost their jobs, etc. So on top of there were a lot of things that were already happening pre-pandemic, which the pandemic only worsened, right? And nothing was done. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, because there were a lot of efforts around this, but not enough was done to restore and heal all of the trauma and that had been experienced, and to stabilize the mental health of a lot of folks, not only the students, not only the families, but even the teachers and the staff that dealt with a lot of this stuff. So I have to say that that's one thing that has not been addressed. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing happening now as a result of that is the chronic absenteeism among the teachers. And so when we're seeing a lot of things happen, the behaviors of the students, we're not taking into consideration that currently the high school is extremely understaffed, and students don't have anything else to do. And so, of course, they're going to act up because there is nothing else to do. So there is a lot of mental health issues that have been happening and haven't been addressed.
to your point, Rasan talked about last hired, first fire, the decrease of, maybe supports and programs that were put in place through a DEI perspective. I had also heard a little buzz. I guess there was another school that at some point in Brockton had done services for young people that may need a little extra emotional support. I heard that school had closed. They've been quote unquote they're in Brockton High now with maybe not that same level of support. And so, Mary, I'm going to ask you the most important question of the evening is, and I'm going to ask you respectfully, pull mom out of it and reflect the voice of your son in reference to what's going on in Brockton.
Well, with respect to the school system, I think he said it best when he and his friends watched the last school committee meeting online, and which he doesn't usually do.
I was getting ready to say, like,
Nope.
I was a young guy, we want young people to be civically engaged, but watching a school committee meeting is okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I think this is the first one he's ever watched. I got home from the school committee meeting and told him.
You didn't prompt him.
No, I did prompt him.
Okay.
I didn't prompt him to watch it, though. I didn't say a word.
Okay. Yep.
No, I go to most of the meetings, all the ones I can. And I came home from this one and was talking to him. I said, I know you probably don't want to hear about it, so I'm not going to talk to you about it. He said, oh, no, I watched it. I said, you what? He said, yeah, my friends and I watched it and we were in the chat. And I said, okay. I said, well, what do you think about the people who are running the schools? He said, I think we have a bunch of clowns in charge. His exact words.
Look at Rasan.
And, the clowns, specifically, speaking of the mayor, and, as the mayor likes to chuckle, oh, the Sullivans, which one? None of them are related, but 3 of the 4 problematic members on the school committee, their last name happens to be Sullivan. One of them's racist. One of them sleeps during the meetings and is there for the health insurance. One of them is the mayor. And then we have the vice chair who said the F word at the last meeting.
MF.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. She did say MF and also screamed I should resign. And the children, I mean, there were over 1,000 people between what was present and online watching this meeting live. And, a number of students watching it. And that's the kind of stuff. The end of the meeting ended with the vice chair screaming, calling someone else an MF, and the mayor screaming and denying that he didn't know about something until some date, which is untrue. But
adult stuff, adultism
right.
stuff, not prioritizing our young people. I'm going to chime in and intersect back in. Outside of him saying that they were clowns, what was another sentiment of his voice post the meeting, or even not just the meeting, just him being there, the experience, and it sounded like he knew one of the mentors, and then not there anymore. What is the sentiment of his voice?
The sentiment of his voice is that they feel like they live in a city where the majority of the people in power don't care at all about them. I mean, when it rains, there are buckets to catch the rain.
In the school?
The roof. Yes. It is a school that is way too large and should have been split up. However, you give more money to your friends who you hire to put in the schools if you only have one school.
Miss Mary, we tap it back into the mom there and your knowledge base. No, you're good. You're good. Right. Because I thought it was important. We don't have a young person here, and you were the closest to. But Evelise, I'll maybe ask, you said your son used to work in the system. Your daughter may still have friends not that far removed. If you can, not be mom, have you heard some sentiment from young people or your daughter amongst her friends? What is that sentiment, if you heard any?
For the most part, it is that unless you as the student care enough about yourself and have the ambition and the natural desire to transcend the adversities, unless you are that somehow very mature child, no one else is really kind of giving you the pathway or the level of support that you need to be able to transcend a lot of those adversities. You almost have to seek out those opportunities because they're not brought to you.
There's so many interesting things to say and unpack based what Mary said about your son. One, this is so, and this is I hate that the mechanism in which he got engaged in watching the school committee report, but good. Who knows? Maybe he may wind up running for office in a few years out of this issue. Eva, at least that sentiment from your daughter is so interesting for young people, because school is supposed to be a place where they have some support and they get pushed, and they, we know, all due respect to our teachers. And we want to name the staff and the teachers that are impacted in Brockton, the ones that get up every day and make it, and to the ones that just can't. Yeah. Mental health and self-care is a priority. And we know that our teachers today are not just teachers. They're not just teaching math, geometry. Well, geometry's math. See, they're not just teaching math, English, and reading. They're social workers. They're nutritionists. They're attire providers for some. They're feminine product givers for some of our students. And so, Rasad, I'm going to ask you as we get ready to wrap up, sir, solutions. What more? And feel free if you got, connections or some sentiment that you're hearing from some young people, or if you were there the other day and heard something, feel free to share that as well. But I want us to end with what you all see as solutions to this being resolved. Because as the summer, we know, as the weather gets warmer, issues from schools spill out beyond the school, so Rasan.
Yeah, well, one of the things that was pointed out, and this is to the point around kids in the city feeling like the people who are in charge, the adults, don't care about them. There's an individual named Jamal Gooding. He runs an organization called PAC Global, and they did a survey of the young people that they worked with, and over 500 young people that were surveyed. The question was, do you believe that the adults in the school system, or maybe it was the city, care about you? And almost to a person, over 500 of the people in that student-led survey or survey of young people said they didn't feel like the adults cared about them. That is a damning statement about what we are projecting to the young people in this city. And so to that point around solutions, I know that there are a lot of solutions that are based in the community, looking at restorative justice solutions to discipline. I was disheartened to hear the chief of the Brockton Police come in and give a report about the security solutions or security plan, because it sounded like an upgrade to a prison. It didn't sound like anything that was going to address the underlying needs that are the cause of some of the disruption. Hats off to another group, the Brockton Coalition for Economic or Education Justice, that's doing a parallel advocacy track around getting to the bottom of understanding what happened with the budget, and engaging community around that issue. So we can look at both who's responsible for this, but also what we as a community can do. So mentors, volunteers, people signing up to be substitute teachers, getting the resources that exist in our community, the support and the linkage to the parents in the community. I already said, and Evelise is doing some of this work, but there needs to be more of it, and there needs to be more supports and resources that are targeted towards that. There's language barriers that exist. There are parents that have to work multiple jobs. There's people who just haven't been able to be great parents. They need the supports and the resources, and they need the community to coalesce around them and provide them support and change the narrative about what's actually happening in Brockton, because this is a wonderful community filled with wonderful people, rich culture, history, heritage, and our children deserve the very best that the city has to offer. And so we can get there, but it has to be a concerted effort from everyone operating on the same page.
Son, I appreciate.
Real last quick.
Go ahead.
March 12th at 6:30 at Messiah Baptist Church. The Urban League and the NAACP are working together with some other community organizations to have a community-led town hall to come up with the solutions and the ways that people can be engaged in this effort. And there's several efforts that are happening, but this is one of them. March 12th, 6:30 p.m. at Messiah Baptist.
At Messiah Baptist. Can you please get me the flyer? You said 6:30 or 6?
6:30.
6:30. Okay. Can you please get me the flyer, and I'll make sure that I get it out to the community. Mary, from your perspective, what do you see as solutions and where you can, as an advocate in your role, and also if there's anything that your son has said to you, because I'm sure you've probably said, well, what do you think should be done, or what should we do? So please feel free to add his voice as well. But towards solutions, what do you see?
I think a lot of what Rasan is talking about, I see, a lot of times people are saying, oh, we need more bodies in the high school. Depends on who those bodies are. They need to be effective and compassionate bodies. That's the difference. We don't need more police. We don't need more discipline. We need a fully staffed school. We need mentors. One of the things that a lot of us have known about that has nothing to do with the problems going on right now is the children don't go to the bathroom there. Most of the bathrooms in the high school are locked. Imagine yourself a teenage girl unable to go to the bathroom at particular times. So that's the one thing that my son has asked about. He's never used the bathroom in that school, and he's been there for 3 years. So, it's because there's not enough staff. If you had enough staff, if you had mentors, I've been trying to talk to the administration since the summer about, we need dads on duty. We need something like that. I was told to go away, shut up, and know my place in not so many words.
Hey. No, hold on. During Women's History Month, you can't hear things. And I don't know if that was the motive.
Those were not their words. But in any case, we now have a principal in Principal McCaskill who is very keen on bringing that exact idea in. And it's with that kind of influence and presence in the school that they can unlock the bathrooms and the children will feel comfortable using them again because of what's going on in the bathrooms.
I mean, there's unfortunately a safety issue, to some respect with our young women and whatnot. And I heard what you said, when women, young women need to go to the bathroom, understood there. I mean, I used to work in medicine. So the first thing when I hear like that is, I wonder if any public health has looked at any uptick in UTIs with the young people that are in Brockton. I mean, that's
would be an interesting, it's
right.
Sad.
Let me pull myself, because Rasan knows that this could go left very quick. Evelise, perspective, as far as solutions, what do you see?
I want to co-sign everything that the other colleagues here have said and mentioned. I think in addition to that is that our children need to feel like they belong there, right? They're not reflected in the school staff. They're not reflected in the school culture and climate. I mean, we do have a new principal, but historically they have not been represented well. They're not represented in the school committee, and they're not represented in the curriculum, right? They need to be included in all of those things in order for them to be able to project a future for themselves. They have to be able to reflect. We all know that U.S. history doesn't consist of one race or one culture, right? How empowering would it be for our students to be learning about people that look like them, that act like them, that speak like them, that have contributed not only to the culture of our country, but economically, politically, you name it, right? And so they need to start feeling like I belong here in many ways, in many aspects. So I think in addition to what has been mentioned now, I want to just tap into the restorative justice component of it, because I work, C-Plan is statewide, and I've been in other districts where, some teachers have blamed restorative justice as to why the kids are quote unquote out of control, because they think of it as lack of accountability. They think
on the students end.
Yes. They think that restorative justice means we're not going to hold them accountable. We're not going to suspend them. We're not going to expel them. And so I think that when we speak of restorative justice, there needs to be a lot of intentionality about how we train teachers and staff about what that looks like, so that it's practiced in the most effective manner, not just, we're just not suspending or expelling students, right? We want to be very intentional about the practices that we use around that. So I think that there has to be tangible items that teachers and staff can walk away with and say, okay, I know exactly what to do in this scenario. Not just any theoretical thing that they may have learned, but actual, like, something practical that they can actually, work with. And so I think that we have to be very intentional around the restorative justice practices when we talk about that.
I definitely appreciate that, because restorative justice and DEI and things like that have oftentimes been put into the sunken place of political and sexy trending sound bites. And the real work that needs to be done often does not get done. And so I want to make sure, and I put this in the private chat, if any of you have links, email address, or phone number for people from Brockton that may want to get involved, that may want to lend their voice to what's going on, please put that website, or Evilise, if C-Plan has an email. Rasan, I don't know how you're moving with the support that you did the other day. Rasan, you know what, Rasan, I got to get used to the fact that you're no longer just ours here in Boston. You're Eastern Massachusetts now. So we got to share you. Because I just, I'm like, when I seen the Urban League. So this is where you can email Rasan Hall for what's going on. You can definitely get more information about the meeting that's taking place on March 6th. That is this coming, I believe, Wednesday. That's this coming Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. at Messiah Baptist Church. I almost remember the street. We used to go out there a lot back in the day.
Jim Parkway.
Yeah.
Okay, that one. And then Evilise email address here is at C-Plan. I'm going to get that up for you as well. Sometimes they take screenshots of the information. And so this is how to reach C-Plan. You can reach Evilise there. Again, this is how you can reach Rasan Hall at the Urban League. And then we're also going to put Mary's information here as well, so you can reach her also. But it is imperative, as we get ready to wrap up, everyone, that you participate as much as possible. There is an accountability. And I put that in the comments. It was supposed to be in a banner. You put, hold on, y'all. Rasan, don't laugh at me. All right, there we go. There's Mary's email address as well. And so if you are a parent in Brockton, I would also say that you all would welcome alumni from Brockton High School that maybe want to participate, could get you already lined up to be mentors. Please contact Mary, or you can contact Evilise, or you can contact Rasan Hall. And don't forget that this coming Wednesday evening, a community-led town hall at Messiah Baptist Church.
Next week.
12th.
The 12th? I thought you said the 6th.
The 12th at 6:30.
There you go.
Rasan,
Put that on me. Look, don't have them folks at Messiah yelling at me because people knocking on their door.
The deacon's gonna call you. Talk about Brother Rasan. You didn't tell me today.
Sister Leona Martin in the chat blowing it up. It's not this.
Hold on. Where's Leona? Leona, thank you. Leona said, "This meeting is the 12th, not the." Sorry.
Yep.
You didn't have enough coffee, Java Jimmy.
I'm tired. But no, in all seriousness, and I'm glad we got to laugh here. The school. See, this is. I heard it in the spirit. The school committee is on the 6th. Okay.
Yes.
Miss Leona, thank you so much for being here. Jacob as well. What did you say, Mary? I'm sorry.
School committee's on the 5th.
Now, Leona, that one I didn't mess up. Or am I reading it wrong? All right. Well,
Tuesday the 5th. Anyway,
the 5th is the school committee. 7 days later is the town hall. So y'all can get together and figure out after the school committee what it is the community is going to do. Evilise, you have any dates? No dates.
I do not. Okay. I'm a part of the board for the Brockton Education, Brockton Equity for Education Justice Board. And so the work that they're doing, I'm just doing with them because I'm a part of that board.
Okay, well, keep us abreast of stuff they're doing, and we'll pump it out and get it out as well. Mary, you want to say something else?
I was going to say, yeah. So right before the school committee meeting on the 5th, this Tuesday, is the Brockton High School Council meeting. Because it is brand new, we are literally organizing it. We have elected parents. We have elected community members. We don't have teachers or students because we're still recruiting for those.
Okay.
So we're in the baby
You might be
stage.
surprised, Mary. You might be surprised at this. You might get a whole different field of folks getting ready to come and participate.
I hope so.
And we still got folks commenting, just coming in. Without fixing the budget, Brockton schools can't move forward. There's just so much. Please, you all keep us abreast. And I would ask, and I don't know that Evilise, you might be the easiest one because of a lot of the community work you do, but I'd be willing if you all can get parents to sign off. And there are some young people that want to come on here and share their I'd be glad if you all have some young people. If they're 18, it's you all know it's a little bit easier media release. But if there's some young people whose parents will sign off, all three of you, please let us know. And can't do it next Sunday, but we'll figure out a date to do it so we can hear from the young people. But please keep us abreast of what's going on. I want to shout out my good friend and sister who's in the room. I'm the only community member appointed to the site council in the person of Eliza Wilson, who I've known for many, many years. And so thank all of you for being here. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Rasan, are you good? Mary, are you good? Evilise, are you good?
I'm good.
Thank you
This
so
is long-term advocacy. So
that's why I said,
and thank you for prioritizing the voice of young people. We'll make sure that we work with you to get their voices heard in this as well.
Okay. Thank all three of you. I'm going to go pay some bills at the end of the evening. Newt Johnson, who was a champion in getting this organized. Newt and Jed.
Yes.
Rasan said, say Jed's last name for me.
Resco.
Yeah.
Fresco. Okay, I got it right. I've known this man for years and always mess it up. I see it, but don't hear it. Okay, y'all get off.
Shout out to Michael Slade in the chat. That's another good brother out here bringing awareness to the parts of the community that folks ain't paying attention to. So shout out to Michael Slade. Michael
Slade and a few others that were in here that were commenting a lot. Miss Leona, Jacob, Lasagna, who has two children that went through Brockton Public Schools in the last couple of years, and also Francis as well. Jocelyn, let me get off of here before I start getting in trouble for naming names. Thank all of you for being here this evening. And to my guests, I appreciate you. Please keep us abreast, and we'll set that date for the young people to come and talk.
Thank each of you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. That's one of the reasons that we have this platform here, so we can inform the community about what's going on. And it's not just Boston. There's Boston proper, but this was definitely an issue that we want to discuss. Among others, we can't do it all here. And I know there are some that want some other things covered and whatnot, but we do what we can when we can. And so please don't forget, if you would like to get in touch with any of them, there is Mary's email address. You can contact her. There's Evalise's email address. You can contact her as well. And then there was also Brother Rasan Hall. You can contact them. Please keep in mind that we are here every Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m. For those of you that joined this evening, this is what we do in the Java Cafe. We do politics. We do information. We have some Black joy, a little bit of faith. But we talk about the issues and share information. So all of you that were here this evening, go to Java with Jimmy on Instagram, at Java with Jimmy on Instagram. Follow me there. Also follow me on Facebook at Java with Jimmy, and also on Twitter. Follow me there as well, so you can get notified when we have more conversations like this. We have quite a few things coming up in the next few weeks. This Wednesday, for those of you that are Boston residents, we are speaking with Mayor Michelle Wu, as we do every first Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. We have a lot to chat with her about on this coming Wednesday. So please plan to join us. For those of you that have joined the Java Cafe for the very first time, thank all of you for joining us this evening. And please stay tuned for what's going on in Brockton and more. And also, by way of announcement, we wanted to remind you that the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts is currently conducting an impact survey. At Beckman, they strive to provide programs and services that make a meaningful impact on our success. By completing the survey, you have the opportunity to share your valuable insights, and help us gauge the value of our programs and services have had on your business. And you can fill that survey out. I'm going to type it in the banner right now so you can see it here. And it is case sensitive, so it is all caps, bit.ly/BECMAIMPACT 2003. So this is where you can go to get the to fill out the impact survey there at BECMA. So please do that to make sure they understand and can demonstrate their impact on Black-owned businesses here in the state of Massachusetts. Again, thank all of you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great evening, everybody, and we shall talk to you very soon. Peace to everyone.